That tells us we're starting. Okay. So welcome to our April Development Activities meeting. I'm Barbara Rudiak, President of the Southside Community Council. If you are new to the DAM process, please visit the Southside Community Council website to read about the council becoming a registered community organization and our role in the development of the South Side. So Philip Wu shortly will, who is our city planning host, will share how you may participate in the meeting. Then we have two projects. The first one is 3175 East Carson Street. And this is a UPMC project that may or may not need to have a dam, but we always appreciate UPMC's willingness to keep the community informed in regard to their projects. And if they need a dam, this will be considered the process where they can move forward with what it is that they're doing. If not, again, I do want to thank all of them for being here to share with us what it is that they are planning. And then 2303, 2313 East Carson Street came to us last month and shared what was being planned for the inside of the building. They would not need to have a dam, I believe, because of that, but again, appreciated that we became aware of what it was that they were doing. What they needed to present to us is what they were doing on the facade. So they're back this month in order to share their plans so that they can move forward and go to the Historic Review Commission. So Phil, if you'd like to tell everyone how they can participate.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. I'm Philip Wu with the City of Pittsburgh Department of City Planning. As Barbara mentioned, I'll just be going over a few pointers related to participating in tonight's virtual meeting. So first, if anyone has any technical issues, needs any help, please use the chat feature and I'll try to help you out. For any questions for our presenters tonight, you can either use the Q&A tool to type out your question or comments. You can raise your hand by tapping the raise hand button, or if you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 and that will allow you to raise your hand. And for our presenters tonight, we ask that you be mindful of anyone who may be on their phones or might not be in front of their computers, and to try your best to describe what's on each of your slides. And lastly, we are recording this meeting for the Southside Community Council to post online later, and for anyone who wasn't able to attend tonight to watch. And with that, I think we can probably get started. And looks like we have Roger Altmeyer and his team from UPMC will be presenting on a proposal for a compressed natural gas fueling station for UPMC's vehicle fleet. And Roger, if you would like to share your screen.
I thought you were advancing the slides, Philip. That's why I sent them all to you.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. Yeah, we can.
I'm sorry, I thought that was the protocol based on the other dams that we've been involved with, but no problem.
Can you see the screen? Or do you see the Google Street View image?
Not yet.
Okay, let me see here. Do you see the image now?
Yeah, we got it.
All right.
So again, Philip, thank you, Barbara and members of the Southside Community Council. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Roger Altmeyer. I'm joined by colleagues in supply chain management, Bart Wise and Brock Johnson, and a construction colleague of mine, Jim Schmidt. The project that we're here to talk to you about today is at 3175 East Carson Street. And it's actually the rear of that facility. Currently, that facility is a hub for our distribution of our pharmacy inventory. We have in-house construction. We have a bed depot and some storage at this facility. as most of you know and have seen, we operate a fleet of vehicles to shuttle our employees back and forth to our Oakland and Shadyside campuses. Some of those vehicles are powered by compressed natural gas, and we're finding it difficult, and Bart will speak to it a little later, relative to finding a consistent source that's in close proximity to the shuttle runs that we operate. Today, we're here to show you an option that we are considering and pursuing to put that facility behind the warehouse at 3175 East Carson Street, in the area that's generally shown on this plan along Sidney Street. Phillips, if you could advance the next slide, please.
Is the next one going to be the map or the
yeah,
map
okay. Yeah, that works. That works. So the site that we're considering, it's highlighted in red here. Again, it's at 3175 East Carson Street. It's in a UI industrial district. In working with city planning, this sort of use is sort of a hybrid relative to a gas station versus a utility type service. What I would suggest here is this facility is entirely for use by UPMC and would be only used by our shuttle drivers. There really no public use of this facility. Next slide, please, Philip.
Did you have more slides than these three? These were the only three that I got in my email.
Yeah, we did.
I can share my screen if needed.
Yeah, Jim, could you do that? I appreciate that.
Philip, can you give me an option to do so?
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, you should be able to share.
And again, I appreciate the being able to see what like the Google map. Many of us look at Sidney Street and think of it on the slope side of East Carson, and don't necessarily realize that Sidney, when you're down, I think at 28th Street or 29th, that it actually crosses East Carson. And then, that's Sarah that goes down. And then you have Sidney again. So I apologize. I'm thinking of Sidney and not Sarah. But again, some of us are not used to Sidney being on the other side of the Hot Metal Bridge. So I think I'm confusing the two, and hopefully did not confuse you even more.
Very good. Yeah, Sidney connects at the red light to the Hot Metal Bridge. This facility we're proposing is directly behind, again, our warehouse facility at 3175 East Carson Street. Bart, you want to give a little detail relative to this operation, if you would? Bart's our Senior Director of Materials Management and Logistics.
Yeah, thank you. And appreciate the time and allowing us to describe what we're looking to do. So as Roger stated, currently we operate our own shuttle bus operation in the Pittsburgh area for our employees. It's called Employee Transit. We currently operate 60 dedicated CNG, which is compressed natural gas shuttles. So we chose to move to CNG about 12 years ago as we change our fleet. Obviously, CNG is green and providing alternative fuel resources that are safer and better for the environment. So currently, Employee Transit needs to travel either to Harmerville or Crafton to refuel. This takes approximately about 1 hour for each shuttle and causes additional cost. There is one other station located on the other end of South Side that is not an option due to their core is on delivering gasoline, and their CNG option is not operable there. It's down more than it's open. So we're requesting to provide a dedicated CNG fuel solution for fueling at the South Side. And this dedicated CNG solution will consist of 3 trailers. 1 permanent that will dispense the fuel and remain in place, and 2 that will bring the dedicated CNG to the site and dispense to the dispenser. And then these 2 will be interchangeable to replenish the CNG supply alternating on site. So if you look at the screen, at the very top, the bus fueling lane is where the shuttles will come in and stage to fuel. The first trailer back, the compressor unit, that is a trailer that will remain permanently there, that will have the dispensing unit and the compression to fuel. Behind that, there's tube transfer trailer 2 and 1. Those will be interchangeable. We'll change those out each night as they'll bring a fresh fuel supply in that will transfer to the dispensing unit and fuel our facilities. As you can see on transfer 2 and trailer 1, they will enter from the left side of the screen through a gate, and then they'll exit through the right side as a straight pull through. The area will also be covered and surrounded by ballards and fencing to protect the view. And it is in a very condensed area, but it provides a great fueling solution for us. You also see I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35 to 40 feet from the road to where that will start. So there'll be plenty of room there. So what's the operational impact? This is a safe operation. We will have plenty of safety precautions in place. Example, there will be emergency shutoff and other safety devices in case they would be needed. This technology has been proven and it's in place at locations within PA. We will take and control and schedule the refueling of the shuttles to establish a plan that will have a minimal effect on the roadway. There'll be minimal traffic additionally coming into Sidney Street because we will schedule that. There should be no increase in noise levels since the CNG shuttles are very quiet and clean and do not add additional noise as what diesel vehicles do. The station also is in operation and it's quiet, and there should be no noise increase that would affect that area. So CNG is a safer technology than gasoline. The strike point for CNG is a much higher point than what gasoline is. So unlike gasoline, that if there was a incident, gasoline puddles on the ground causing a spill, which causes extensive cleanup. CNG will not do that. And if there is any type of leakage, it would dissipate into the air that also would cause no adverse effects to the environment. So it's an alternative fuel site. We think we've condensed it to a very minimal area that will meet our needs. And we're really seeking your approval to allow UPMC to move forward with this solution that will greatly help operate our operation and continue to provide green vehicles for the area.
I think the next slide we have here, Bart, and Jim can advance it. He can just describe generally what's going to happen on the construction site relative to what this might look like. Jim, do you have that slide?
I do. Is it up on the screen? I just moved it up. I don't know if you folks are seeing a rendering or not at the side of the building. No?
The rendering we're seeing is the sketched out rendering. I don't know if you have the picture rendering or not.
Let me stop sharing and reshare again.
Yes.
There we go.
There's the
Yep.
picture. So that just
So
Jim,
go ahead.
go ahead, Jim.
So this area right now, currently, we have a buffer zone right here that is primarily gravel. We intend to remove that gravel, pour a concrete pad, as Bart suggested, and as the image shows in front of you. We intend to wrap it with a chain link fence that is painted, and we'll have slats inside the chain link fence that are painted to match. There'll be a series of gates, 4 down one side, 3 down the other side, all pivot gates. They're reflected on the screen here. If I can maybe zoom in a little bit. On the back side here, where the shuttles will pull up in this area where you see my cursor, there'll be a sliding gate where the shuttle driver will exit the vehicle, open the gate, dispense the fuel, and then return the gate closed and go about his or her way. As Bart suggested earlier, to change out the different tanks, will open either this gate or this gate. The tank trailer will drive through. It'll park, the gates will be closed and be relocked again. Aside from the fencing and the concrete materials, like we said, there's some bollards, there'll be some line striping, and then guardrail as required to protect the fenced enclosure. Any questions on the materiality?
So what we're seeing here is the actual space that where the 4 trailers, if I'm correct, 4 trailers will be.
It's 2 trailers, Barbara, and a third that's permanent. I guess you could call it a trailer. It's a compression unit that compresses the natural gas before it's dispensed.
Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing above those fences would be the trailers.
Yeah, it's the top trailers. The fencing here represents 8 feet in height, which I believe is the maximum allowed by code. Mm-hmm. For this area. So yeah, you will see just the top parts of the trailers.
Are these similar to what you now have in Harmerville and Crafton?
So what's currently in Harmerville and Crafton are permanent fuel stations similar to what a gas station would be. Okay. And the tanks that refill or generate them are off-site, a little bit of a location from there. The concept is the same. It's just this allows us to put it in a little bit more condensed space.
Mike McKay, your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a question. If you could go back to that plan view, that drawing. There appears to be an underground, is that a storm sewer under there that goes beneath that first tank? I see what appears to be like manholes, or what is that utility that's underground?
I believe, and I would need to verify this, but I believe that's an underground stormwater line.
Stormwater, and there's no manhole there in your envelope that would have to be taken out or changed location, as I see some further downstream.
Yeah, I believe these are inverts for the stormwater to enter. We have them on this side and on this side of the facility.
Oh, okay. So that wouldn't affect that underground at all?
No, because it's a slab on grade. There will be a surface trench that the hoses will run in from the transfer trailers to the compression unit that will run along the right-hand side of the concrete pad, interior fence line, but it's shallow. It's only a few inches deep. And as the trailers come in, it's kind of like a gas truck you see at a gas station. The truck comes and there's hoses that attach to it. And instead of putting the fuel on the ground, they connect these hoses to the metering and vaporizing skid that's in the back. And then there's another hose that connects to the compression unit. So there's a convenience trough, if you will, that will be recessed into the concrete slab to house those hoses. But for the most part, everything is slab on grade. It's up top.
Okay.
So to answer the question of how many vehicles daily, again, we have 60 total vehicles in the fleet. We will not be fueling every one of them every day. I would say that on an average, you would see no more than 40, but probably in the neighborhood of about 30 per day that we would schedule throughout the day. So they weren't there at the same time. We'd schedule prior to their shift, during the break of their shift, or at the end of their shift. But we would schedule them throughout, not to add additional traffic.
And what is their path of travel to access the site?
So depending upon where they come from, they could enter onto Sidney Street from East Carson Street, or they could come across, if they're coming from 2nd Avenue, across the bridge and turn into Sidney Street and come down from that way. That would be one of the 2 entrances that we would use. And then once they get there, they would enter the facility up at the far left or far right, and then come into the staging area.
But I
These
think
are vehicles that carry people, right? The, like the buses, not buses, but, I see
Shuttle.
them riding around all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
the purple shuttles you see.
Yeah, the shuttles you see, they are either 22 passenger or 32 passenger shuttles that we use to move our employees from the offsite parking lots to their place of employment. Parking within the hospitals doesn't allow enough parking for the patients' families along with all the employees. So the majority of the employees park offsite. We have offsite locations there in the south side on our, what we call our south lot. And we also have Second Avenue in our children's lot.
And Jackie asks, does the station give off any type of smell or odor related to the CNG?
No, it's odorless. If there was any type of an odor, it would dissipate before it would reach anybody's nose. It's not an issue at all.
How secure is the site? I would think that area of Sidney is not, there are not a lot of people around other than those that may live in the apartment buildings or traffic. So how is that area going to be secure?
So we have security cameras on site. We also have the luxury of being right across the street from the FBI building and Homeland Security building. So we have cameras and security from those places also consistently watching. And then we also have a guard on site during the evenings at that facility.
What would the hours of operation be?
So technically our shuttle buses run from about 3 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. The fueling hours, again, we would schedule them out. I would say the majority of them would be mid-morning to be fueled or early afternoon or early evening. It would not be during prime quiet times.
Would there be any chance of these vehicles backing up onto Sidney Street, like being in a queue?
No, that's one thing that we've already discussed and we will implement, and why we want to make sure that we have a scheduled plan for them. It's not a free for all for them to make their own decision when they're coming to fuel. We will give them a scheduled time. And that's the first thing. We wouldn't want to back up shuttles into that lot, which might impede our own operation within there or cause additional volume to Sidney Street. We would not allow that.
And when would the trailers be moving in and out to refuel the standing station?
So we have the ability to schedule that also. We would work with that on-site offsite vendor to schedule. Right now, we would look to do probably early morning. And it would be, you would leave one in overnight and you would bring the replenishment the next day. So there wouldn't be both of them or replenishing each at the same time.
Now, the size of those, when I look at those and thinking of the word trailer, I'm thinking that it's like a trailer truck that you would see on the highway. But from the photo, the rendering that you were showing, they don't appear to be that wide, that long.
So the typical trailer you see on the road is 53 foot. These will be a 45 or 48 foot trailer.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions?
Oh, wait, you did say they were going to be covered, right? Is that whole thing going to be under a roof?
No, that it will not be under a roof, but it will be surrounded by fencing.
What if it's raining and the guy has to fill up his bus? He stands out in the rain?
That's not an issue. It's no different than what we do when we go to Crafton or Harmerville and those locations.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike, for thinking about the employees.
And you already had a pre-application meeting for this project, correct?
Correct. Yes, Philip.
Was there any discussion about what approvals you may need, from zoning board or any other, boards or commissions?
Preliminarily, they suggest we did not necessarily have to go through any other commissions. That administrator exception was a possibility relative to this use. Again, it is somewhat of a hybrid use relative to permitted uses in the zoning district, but that was the sense that we had based on our pre-application meeting.
Would
Okay.
there be
Okay.
tractor trailers still backing up to that door number 1 in that picture?
Now, we will work with the inside operation, which I'm directly controlled with. We will schedule when that trailer comes. We do need to have door number 1 empty when we replenish the trailers in there, but that will be what we plan out and work with that operation to do. Typically, there's 2 or 3 of those doors open at any given time anyhow.
We won't ask what's behind door number 2 or door number 3.
There's
Well-
a couple of questions in the chat. Do you want me to just read them?
Um,
I think we read those already.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought they were new. Oops.
Thank you, Kathleen. No.
Can you repeat the answer to the Phillips question one more time? I didn't catch the end of it. Roger, if you don't mind.
Relative to use,
Yeah, and he asked if you needed to go in front of anyone else for.
we do not believe that approval by the planning commission or the zoning hearing board is required for this project. Preliminarily, we've been told that it does fall within the permitted use. Again, a little bit of a hybrid, but administrator exception could be issued for this project.
Thanks.
There are times that we do, you do go before the zoning board for that administrator's exception, but not always, I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
correct.
so again, if that is the case, then I'm glad that we're meeting.
Yes, correct.
So any other questions? So if not, again, I do want to thank all of you for presenting and sharing this with us. And if there is a need to go, just to go before the zoning board, again, I don't have it on a slide, but if anyone has any additional questions or comments, please send that to info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org, and we certainly will share that with Roger and his team in order to get them answered.
Yeah, Barbara, and we intend to apply for our ZDR application next week
Okay.
to our site engineer. So at that point in time, city planning will confirm exactly what the requirements are relative to approval of this project.
Okay. Well, again, if there are no further questions, thank you, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to present the group.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We'll be
Thank
talking
you.
soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Kathleen, I think my clerk is connecting with me personally, the Zoom. So if you can give him the link so that
Sure.
he can be a part of this.
Sure.
Barbara, should I just start in on the second one?
Yep. So, hi, Jesse. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Good. How are you
Glad
doing?
to- Welcome back again. So we're going to review 2303, 2313 East Carson Street. So if you want to share your screen, Jess.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, so some of this is repeat background information for those who weren't at the last meeting. I'll move through it fairly quickly, but try to hit on all the important points. And closer to the end, we have some rendered elevations of what we're proposing for the facade. So again, this is Birmingham Place at 2303 near the Birmingham Bridge. So give you a overview of the site. Birmingham Bridge is on the left in this plan. Plan north is up. And this building is currently office space, and the same owner, Farrows, who owns the building, owns parking lots. So there's some parking on the south 23rd or left side of the screen on the property, as well as some additional lots off of Sidney and Wrights Way. So those are all existing permitted off-site parking to serve this building. And they also lease some parking spaces across South 23rd on the left of your screen. So again, we're not anticipating any zoning board or special zoning variances. We're simply requesting HRC, certificate of appropriateness, for the exterior renovations. So I apologize, it seems to be loading briefly. But we tried to find these couple images, we tried to find some historic photos of the site. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything too far back. This is kind of looking down East Carson, and I'll load. There was a photo we found across the street on East Carson, but not of this building in particular. But just for context, we try to see what the historic nature of the site was prior to doing any work. But what we do have with the next slide coming up, if it'll load, is essentially the farthest back we found some photos from look like the 70s. We're not sure the exact date, but in 1993, this property was renovated. So I apologize, must be too high resolution and it's loading. So I'll wait for that to catch up so you don't have to imagine what's being shown. But this did go before the Historic Review Commission in '93, this building, when they did a renovation. It was, from my understanding, one of the early projects in the Southside Historic District that was approved through the historic guidelines.
Jesse, oh, okay.
Yeah, this is I should have shrunk this down. This is the version we submitted so that people could see high resolution. But so you can see on the screen, the top right is a photo of what it was before the renovation, 93. I don't know the exact date, but judging from the cars, the 70s or 80s. This was a bakery at one point. United Bakery was a union bakery. And at the point it was renovated, it was kind of disrepair. Some of the old historic industrial windows up on the second floor, but a lot of storefronts bricked in on the first floor. And then there's also this 3-story, almost looks more like a residential structure that was connected as well. So the 93 renovation did a lot to fix up the historic facade, and will largely be leaving that untouched. So just some photos from today. This is East Carson Street looking at the front of Birmingham Place. So there's currently offices in here, and offices will be remaining essentially from where you can see this cornice line over to the right, and I'll show you in plan as well. So there's a current occupancy permit for the offices. Again, just giving you some background. And for those who weren't here last time, the proposed use is to change part of the building, roughly half, to apartments, and the other half will remain offices. So this is the view we're showing right now from South 23rd, looking across Wrights Way at the western side that faces the Birmingham Bridge and the rear of the building as it is today. And again, just an overview of parking. We're not asking for a parking variance, but there are 51 total spaces owned by the property owner. If this were to be built new as an office building, it would be required 64 parking spaces. And if this will load, basically, we're showing you a plan of, again, roughly half of the area of the building will become apartments, roughly half will stay office space. And this actually reduces the parking load. And we're adding some bike parking in the back rear of the building, accessed off of Wright's Way. So again, if our renovation were built new, it would only require 48 parking spaces per the current zoning code, and they have 51. So I won't belabor this too much, but again, just the site plan. One of the comments we got when we came last month was add some more street trees, which we are proposing to do. There are some existing on East Carson. We're proposing to add one more following the similar pattern of the street trees out front already. And then we are reducing the parking area by only 3 spaces, but we're hoping to add some outdoor space that would also have some landscaping, 2 street trees in a planter along East Carson just behind the sidewalk, and then 3 new street trees by a proposed patio off of South 23rd Street. So now we're showing a little more detailed information than what was shown last time. We showed just the rough areas of the apartments. Now you can see a little more of the layout. So as I said, the right half of the building will remain as offices. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So the proposed lobby will be off of South 23rd Street near the rear where there's an existing loading dock. That loading dock will remain and service the building. One change from last time is we were looking at having trash inside the building, but in talking with their maintenance crews and the small number of apartments here, they're leaning towards what we're proposing now is a dumpster enclosure off of Wright's Way at the rear, which we'll show in some elevations, will be screened with a brick screen wall and only open to Wright's Way at the back. But the loading dock will remain in place for anyone moving in or other loading needs. And as I mentioned before, off of Wright's Way, there's a rear entrance that people can bring their bikes in or just come from the parking that's off of the alleyway into the main elevator of the building. And I'll have a zoomed in area of that outdoor space shortly. But we also have an overall second floor plan. Again, same footprint as below, but there'd be an existing office tenant that remains in the right half of the building. And then there'd be apartments on either side of a corridor. 2 of these are 2-story apartments that are shown in the bottom left. Only the bottom left-hand corner of the building is 3 stories. And those would be 2-story apartments. So now the part that Historic Review Commission cares about the most. So this is our proposed front facade of the building. So as I said, from this cornice line, or where you see the dimension line here to the right, we are not proposing to change. That's an existing office tenant. What we are doing on this area of the white brick facade, there are a couple entrance doors of existing storefronts. We're proposing to just remove those doors and infill in kind with storefront and matching storefront solid panels at the base. We are proposing to salvage one of those because there's an existing door in the center here that doesn't match. For whatever reason, it was like a silver color. So we'll save one of the matching dark gray doors and relocate it is what we're proposing. Then most of the work is on the 3-story. As you saw, it used to be in the 70s was like a mottled brick color. This currently today, the red is painted. It's a already painted brick. Normally we wouldn't propose painting a brick, but if it's already painted, that's allowed in the historic district. So we're not committing to these specific colors. The HRC doesn't dictate colors. We're happy to get input if you react strongly one way or the other, but trying to keep a somewhat historic pattern while also acknowledging that this is more of a modern building on the left corner, or at least more industrial, and had less historic significance. So mainly what we're proposing is subtractive. You'll remember there's some trim that was not original on above these storefronts, and basically trying to give a little more cohesiveness. And I'll zoom in. Recessed panel trim band, because we don't really need sign bands anymore for these are going to be apartments. And we're proposing to remove some of the storefront lighting, and you'll see it on the right, just the little gooseneck lights that light up a sign band. Those would shine into the apartments that are going to be behind these windows. So we're just proposing some decorative sconces that will light up and down the existing masonry facade. Otherwise, we're rebuilding a storefront cornice that we feel like would be a little more historically appropriate than what was added, it appears, in the 90s. And feel free to interrupt with questions if I'm not clear on something. We're close to the end of the presentation here. This is a rendering of the west facade facing the Birmingham Bridge, if it'll finish loading. So this is where the majority of the work is, and we also at the bottom of the screen have an enlarged plan of the proposed outdoor space. So on this facade, we're adding a number of windows, trying to create somewhat of a rhythm of, there are roughly 5 or 6 upper story windows currently, and we're just adding a few more in the same pattern. But the ground floor, most of the storefront is existing. We're just going to leave that as it is and remove some of the sign banding again, because these aren't storefronts anymore. Oh, I jumped. But so we're proposing to stop the sign band at this first storefront and have raised landscaping beds with a brick landscaping wall, both at East Carson, where we have street trees and a landscape bed, as you can see on the right. And then we're proposing to have some landscaping surrounding a brick patio. And this will just be at the height of the first floor, which is a little bit taller as you get farther towards the rear of the building. We're proposing a new storefront opening and canopy at the entry to the lobby off of this patio. And then you'll see the existing loading garage door, and we're proposing a 6-foot tall brick screen wall around the dumpster enclosure at the rear. So finally, the rear facade, looking from right's way at the rear of the building. On the right, you'll see the dumpster enclosure that extends up and is as tall as the dumpsters themselves. And then these are existing door openings out of the exit stair, and we're just replacing an existing door in the existing opening with a new entrance door and just a slightly raised landing. And then we're proposing a few new windows. The second floor windows, they're existing masonry openings. We're going to replace those windows and propose a few new masonry openings at the ground floor for an apartment on the lower level. And then we'll just be patching some old vent brickwork. So that is a summary of what we're proposing. Again, just to recap, only going to HRC for public hearings. Roughly half of the building changed use to apartments. We're proposing 14 new. I think last time we mentioned 15, but it is 14 new apartments with bike spaces inside per zoning code. And that is our proposal. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
And your HRC hearing is on May 4th, is that correct?
That is correct. We are on the agenda for the May 4th HRC hearing. And this is what this presentation is exactly what we submitted to the HRC.
Well, I will just start. I guess I just had a couple of comments. Thank you for the update, and it's looks very good. Thank you. Some of the comments I was talking about last time was about the trash enclosure in the side yard, street trees, and looks like you addressed them very nicely. I'm pretty satisfied with that myself. Others can speak for themselves on that. Couple of comments that I'd make suggestions on. The trash enclosure, if it could get a gate or if you'd have lockable dumpsters, it is a bigger problem where people drive up and just put junk in your dumpsters around here, especially when they're sort of unmanned because they're not like at a front door or they're kind of in a hidden area. So a gate would be preferred, I think, where you just sort of have that controlled entry. Doesn't have to be, well, should be locked, I guess, but that would be a suggestion of mine, or lockable dumpsters. The other thing would be your brick wall around the yard area. It's going to be used by skateboarders. I think you need to put some deterrent along the edge of it so it doesn't just get chewed up by them running along and grinding along the edge of it. So if you can come up with something there, that'd be appropriate, I think, as well. I know just from the way people use the property and view the south side, I'm a little concerned about it not having access control, or like somebody might just walk down right next to the building all the way into the patio, and you don't have really any furniture there, but I can imagine there being some benches and stuff. And I am a little concerned. I'm hoping you're going to have cameras on both the loading and the patio area to sort of deter overnight guests and issues like that, and sort of loitering, just some issues that come up in our neighborhood. Not sure if I'm a fan of fencing it off to privatize public space, but it is your private space. And, maybe if it was, had some access control, you might have more ownership taken by the residents. If it was like their private little garden, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's something the group here would be, in for or not, but I do feel like it's a little exposed to feel like any one of the residents might take it up to make it their own, knowing that anybody can kind of walk in there and take it over and not feel like they as residents have priority over that space. Because it is a busy, it's visible from Carson, and people could just walk off and say, hey, let's just sit down here and drink and have a good time and deter the actual residents from enjoying it. I don't know, somebody else could chime in on that, but yeah, I like where it's went. So thank you. Follow up, anybody else?
I think, Mike, the points that you bring up are good points. And even if you, in regards to the dumpsters, even if you have them locked, it doesn't deter people from putting their bags next to it, next to the
mattress.
or a mattress, or on top of the dumpster. So a gate, some sort of a gate would be good.
What about the idea of rotating the entrance to the other side so it faces the loading dock again? So you have to more intentionally go onto your property in the loading dock to actually access the dumpsters. I know it's harder for the dumpster company, but they'd still just open the gate, pull them into the loading, get them. But the way they are now, they're kind of facing away. No one really has visual control over them, and they're bound to be abused by people.
They will be. There's no doubt.
Yeah. You guys feel the same way, or am I making?
No, I'm happy to see the enclosure, but when it's shown without some type of gate on it, it's just going to become a dumping ground. It most definitely is.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with your recommendation of some type of access control around the patio, be it a fence with a push button pad gate on it, something like that that residents can go through, because I live on Mary Street, which is technically with the alleys, like 4 or 5 blocks off of Carson. The condos across from me are in an old church rectory, and they have a gate on the side that at one time, because it failed very quickly, a push button lock on there for the residents, and the residents never bothered getting it fixed. And that gate is open all the time. I can't tell you how many times on the weekends I look out there and someone's peeing in there on a regular basis, especially on festive occasions like St. Patty's Day, something like that. Or people are opening up and letting their dog go to the bathroom back there and then just walking away. So I see it every day, and I'm 5 or 6 blocks back off of Carson, where, you know, your residents are going to be kind of front and center. So something definitely, I think we all would say recommend knowing how things go around here. And then I noticed, I was looking at your submission on my gigantic monitor next to me from the HRC website. Did you guys decide to take the entrances to those first floor apartments inboard? I think, weren't you showing those opening onto Carson Street last time we met?
So there were a couple existing doors, but that was an oversight. We weren't intending for them to have entries off of East Carson.
Okay.
So those are going to be infilled, and those apartments you'll enter from the inside of the building. There's
Okay.
only one remaining apartment. We can see it from this side. There's one door off of the apartment at the corner that enters from the exterior, but otherwise everyone else has an interior entry.
Okay, yeah, I remember Bob talking about some examples. I think he had just stayed in like an Airbnb or something and referenced it, so. Okay, and those infills, those are the current ones are remaining, or you're replacing those infills?
On East Carson?
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so I'll zoom in here. These, and I'll highlight it so it's easy to tell. These are, well, maybe I'll highlight it if it'll let me. These 2 panels are existing doors, and we're just gonna infill with the same curtain wall or storefront system with glass and a solid panel to match what's existing on either side. So they were doors like this, and those will get removed and replaced with storefront.
I think the blue paint color is, I think it's warm. I think it's historic, and it seems to blend with the other building that the existing brick that is there. So I think it has a much better feel to it than the red did. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but I think it looks nice, and it looks historic. It's
I like
not,
it. It does look like a historic palette from the rendering.
yeah. So any other comments, Jody? I think you're,
Yeah, I can make a couple comments if
yeah.
I have a couple seconds. Overall, I think, my name's Jody Sherman. I'm with the local review committee. You might have met Bob at the last video, which I was unable to attend. We're the same deal. So I'm just here providing some comments. I don't believe we've reviewed this internally. So take my comments at face value. I think overall the improvements to the building are excellent and in line with the historic guidelines for Carson Street, East Carson Street. A couple of comments I would make, starting with the residential building. One thing that stands out to me is kind of the play with the cornice and the signboard, and how the cornice extends further than the signboard does. And I feel like historically the cornice and sideboard kind of go together. So wherever there's a cornice, the signboard extends to the end of that cornice. However, in your facade, you're kind of cutting it off, so it's just over the storefront window. And potentially HRC may have a problem with that design concept. It kind of, you know, the way that if the cornice and storefront kind of wrapped around that entire front facade on Carson and onto South 23rd, I think it may be a more continuous element. I do appreciate the improvement in the overall design of the cornice and storefront compared to what is there now. However, it's just one little detail that I think they might pick up on. Even though there's no, you know, it's just the signboard, there's no sign, obviously, but the interrelationship of those two elements is typically wherever one exists, the other exists below.
Understood. Yeah, we wrestled back and forth and tried
yeah.
a couple different options with that, but I appreciate that.
I do think that removing the signboard from the other two windows on South 23rd makes sense. Since again, there's no cornice, so you're kind of just improving, you know, the openings or making them less prominent and more of just a punched opening. Still maintaining the storefront within those openings. The awning over the residential entry, we ran into this on another project a block away. They reacted a little bit to the more modern awning style versus the traditional fabric awning profile, which is more of that triangle shape. And this, you know, one argument for you guys could be this isn't the primary facade. However, it is a very prominent facade because South 23rd is so open. So they may pick up on that and start to look to request a more traditional or historic awning over that opening. And I think lastly, it was just one quick note, the sconce lighting on the yellow brick building that you're adding. I would recommend that they kind of match the period or the styling of the existing building so that it all kind of blends together and integrates well. HRC has picked up on that with more modern sconces or wall lighting, wall accent lighting fixtures that didn't quite match the period of the building, and ask people to change them basically. So that might be just one thing as you're, you know, if the HRC more detail you can provide, the more they can, you know, get you comments or approve things right out of the gate. So if you have a cut sheet for that fixture and it, you know, you guys believe that it'll work well with this facade from a period styling standpoint, that would be in your, you know, to your advantage to have that.
Understood.
That was it.
I did have one follow-up. I just wanted to ask, did you have a tenant, a commercial tenant in mind, or did the client for this building yet? Or do you know what kind of, is it just business offices or is it a retail or just
Yeah.
curiosity?
So there already is a tenant in the ground floor and they will remain. They're an office tenant. I forget exactly the nature, but a typical office. And then the second floor office will be speculative, but again, office space.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, great job coming back. Appreciate it.
Yep.
This is
And I would say that Jody's comments are the ones, as he has repeatedly mentioned, he's sharing his knowledge of the historic district guidelines for East Carson Street, and also how HRC has reacted in the past to other projects. And so he has an understanding of how HRC will react as you present. So the more that you're able to take from what he has said, in addition to what we have said, what we say is important too, but HRC, he has a very good understanding. We're learning, but we're still learning. So I appreciate Jody's comments.
Yeah, it's appreciated.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
what would we have to do to if you guys are inclined to rotate that around, and I know you're going to HRC, would that matter? Can you verbalize that for the hearing? Would they be concerned with that if you guys agree with our idea of rotating around the garbage enclosure and putting a gate on it and maybe fencing in the outdoor area if the owner is so inclined? Would that be?
I think that's something we could work with the HRC on. That's more of a zoning issue, but obviously it's on the exterior of the building, so HRC has jurisdiction as well.
Sure.
I'll have to review with the owner. I don't know who's picking up the trash here, so we'll just have to make sure they can get everything, but I think they'd be amenable to a gate at the very least, and we could discuss with the HRC if we need to amend anything to get that to be approved.
And Jesse, if you need any any documentation to convince, we do have photos of that illustrate what it is that we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think they'll disagree. So,
Is this the resident parking on the side here, or is this for the businesses? I know you have 2 handicap spaces. I don't know if we talked about that before.
I don't know of a specific plan to reserve the spaces or not. I don't know how they have it currently with their tenants. At least one of the handicap spaces would need to be for the office tenant since it's the closest to their entry. But I don't know if they'll reserve any of the others.
Okay, I think signage would be really important to help mitigate misunderstandings and neighborhood issues. If
Yeah.
you promote that with them, that maybe the front end of each of the stalls has a reserved for tenants of, or reserved for, and towing enforced 24 hours a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, not to limit it, but also to just reduce the frustration of our neighborhood parking concerns with new residents. So.
Understood.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? So this will be going in front of the Historic Review Commission at the beginning of May. So if anyone has any additional comments, please share with us at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. And we can certainly share those with Jesse and the owner.
Yep.
And so then the last slide is one that we're all familiar with. So please visit our website for follow-up on the projects. We actually need to put all of that follow-up on our website. So don't look for it tomorrow. The dams will be up on our YouTube page. Those are current, and this one will be up shortly. Again, sign up for our newsletters if you're not, if you don't currently receive them. And our next dam will be on May 17th, 2022. So thanks to everyone for attending and providing questions and comments. So have a good evening, everyone. It's still light outside.
And not raining. Thanks.
It's not raining, yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.
You.
Right.